What is up, Rose? Be Josh here, and welcome to episode 9 of World of Warships for Beginners, my series where we're diving into the pure basics of setting up an account all the way to the advanced stuff and everything in between to hopefully make you a better player in World of Warships. In the last episode, we went over cruisers and their ammo types on which to shoot at which class, and today's episode is going to be all about the big bad battleships. So let's dive into some training battles, and I'll show you when to use which against each class. So here we are in the battleship and against destroyers. We're going to talk about the realistic situation and the perfect world. Now, the perfect world, HE on a battleship is going to be the best thing against destroyers. And the reason why is you have the biggest shells in the game in a battleship. And with that, we already saw what a cruiser can do against a DD, where you're just going to get over pens and you aren't going to get that full pen. As a battleship, your primary ammo is armor piercing, so the second type of ammo. However, if you do get the situation where you do have the ability to, let's say you know where a DD is going to be and you want to have it loaded, a DD is the only ship left in the game, HE is obviously going to be the way to go. You know, because you just won't have that, you can destroy a whole bunch of stuff, do a whole bunch of damage, and almost actually kill them in one salvo. Most of the time, though, you're going to have AP loaded, which we'll show in just a second. But with AP being your primary, it's most likely not going to be something. And honestly, I just don't think it's worth it in most situations because your reload is going to be around 30 seconds for most battleships. HE is going to be ideal, and it's going to end up doing more damage per salvo in most situations. There are situations where AP can get full pens. That's going to be in the, again, kind of like the cruiser AP. Battleship AP will end up doing more in certain situations. But in most, what you're going to end up doing, especially when you're shooting against this, is you're just going to mainly stick with AP. You're still going to do a ton of damage. We'll show this on a full life destroyer as well, but AP will be your main ammo. Most of the time, it's not going to be worth it with the long reload to even switch to HE to do damage. You'll still do a lot of damage with AP. So here we have a pretty realistic situation. Let's say a DD is full life and it's starting to charge you, try to get torpedoes off. You aren't going to have time, let's say it runs around a corner, you aren't going to have time to just switch to HE and get that ready. So you have armor piercing loaded, and what you just going to want to do is just shoot, obviously. There's no citadels on destroyers, so it's not like you're going to citadel off the planet, but you don't have time to switch HE, just shoot AP. So get those shots in. See how it's all over pens. You're going to get that almost exclusively against DDs, unless it's going to be angled away or in. That's the only way, because it'll actually get a full pen since it goes the length of the ship. It's just kind of how the armor mechanics work. So obviously it's just massive holes, and you aren't going to be able to kill it, but it's just AP is still going to be a fine ammo for battleships. In a perfect world, if you can switch to HE, obviously it did more damage per salvo, but you know, especially if it has like 3k life, there's no reason to just switch. You're still going to do a bunch of damage. It's all going to be overpen damage because your shells are so big compared to their armor. But honestly, I would just almost exclusively just stick to AP with battleships, although we will get to some situations where HE is going to be a better ammo as a secondary ammo. So battleships versus cruisers, and we're going to see if we can just get this in one take on what I'm kind of explaining with this. Battleship versus cruisers, your main ammo is going to be AP. HE should never be your main ammo. I'm trying to even think of some advanced situations of when HE should be. It just really isn't. Cruisers tend to be lighter armored, although some do in lighter tiers have some good armor. Just stick with AP as your main ammo against cruisers. You should almost exclusively be shooting AP against cruisers. Whenever I see a battleship shooting HE against the cruiser, it hurts me in my heart. And whenever I am broadside to somebody like this cruiser is to me right now, and I get shot with HE, I just thank the gods that they shot HE, because I would have probably been killed. AP is going to be 99.999% of your ammo type towards cruisers, and the reason is hopefully what I'm going to show right here is, again, we have that penetration as we saw with some cruisers. Once it gets into the higher armor here, you're going to break a lot of shells on some cruisers. Destroyers are going to break a lot of shells. Battleships, with their massive shells, they don't matter. So we're going to be aiming for that citadel every time, lining up against the water line right under there. So the first take, dispersion tooketh away, so we're going to try out with the second one. Again, aiming along the water line, and we're aiming right for those citadels right there. That should be it. Let's see if we get some good dispersion on this. It's looking pretty solid. Will we get those citadels? We got one big citadel. See how big of a hit? Almost a devastating strike. It would have been if we got a couple more shells in them. 7 of our shells hit. 7 out of, is it 12 on this one? Yeah, 12 on this. 7 of 12. So that's what you want to be. That's what you're going to want to be doing. it's just going to be those big hits that you really, really want against the cruiser, and then you can just basically get those big dev strikes and work towards that and use that AP on these ships. This is going to be your main, almost exclusively your main ammo type against cruisers, because what it's going to do is it's going to give you that wow factor, that big salvo, and just let you take care of those cruisers. So far, HE if you can, but just stick with AP against DDs, it's fine. AP against cruisers is going to be your #1 ammo, and there really aren't many situations where HE is going to be ever better than AP. So battleship versus battleship, AP is still going to be your primary ammo, and the reason is you'll just consistently get bigger hits on this. There are a couple situations, however, where HE is going to be better. I will go briefly over those, but again, AP is going to be your primary ammo, and the reason is you're going to get just the bigger hits on average. So, especially with something that's broadside, you have the potential of getting citadels. We'll see if we can get one right here, but again, we're going to shoot under those turrets along the waterline and try to get those big salvos. So, with the other classes, we had trouble actually breaking through this armor, but since we have the bigger calibers, what we can do is just punch right through the armor and hopefully hit the big citadels that we're trying to get and have a nice salvo. Not the best looking dispersion right there, but that is the lower tier battleships. They tend to not have that, but even with fires like HE versus HE, AP versus AP, if you are going to get close to something, you do have the potential of hitting that big citadel and then getting a massive advantage health-wise, ship versus ship. Now, one thing too is if something is shooting HE as a battleship, you can heal a lot of that fire damage. So in the end, it may seem like you're doing more damage, but it's going to be all repairable damage. So we're going to try to get a little bit farther back, hopefully get a little bit better dispersion and see what we can get. Maybe a nice little citadel on this. So boom, there's a nice little salvo. We're knocking out some guns, 6 full pens, and already in just 2 salvos he's at half, with a lot of that is kind of unrepairable damage. Some of it is, but not all of it. Compared to fires, he would have maybe burnt down, repaired a fire, and overall we would have just done less alpha damage. So AP is going to be your go-to ammo on battleships. A lot of these ships at these tiers too, you can kind of just do pen damage no matter which angle. In later videos we'll talk about, and there's a pretty good looking salvo, so we'll see what that does. So boom, there's that salvo. There's that big 20k salvo, 19k salvo, and then that's what we're talking about. That's the big chance of AP. So what you're going to want to do is shoot along that water line. We can pen through that thick armor and get those bigger hits. If I'm just shooting HE, yeah, he'll take some fire damage, and yeah, you know, we'll knock out AAs or secondaries and stuff like that, these little things, but really AP is going to be the way to go. Now, if this ship was going, let's say, away, angled in, bowwind is what a lot of things is called, that's when HE is going to be the way to go, because the armor is going to be working against us. So something, let's see if I can get a good example. So if, let's say we're looking at this, right, and he was angled a bit more into me, or let's say, let's just use my ship as an example. If he's angled into me, it's a very small target to hit. So we're not going to be able to hit any of those citadels because the armor is going to ricochet a lot of this. It's only going to be superstructure damage. Or let's say a ship is going away and we can't really get that angle. Then is a decent time to use HE, because with the smaller target and only really the superstructure to hit, because we can't get those big salvos, then HE is going to be the way to go. So what we would do is with HE, just like anything normal, we'd raise it up off of that armor and, you know, hit that superstructure with HE. AP is going to be your primary ammo. You want those big cool hits. You want to just delete things off the planet, and that's what the big battleship is going to do. So, and that is not exactly what I wanted as that hit, but that is what wargaming does. RNG of the battleships, some are going to be dead on and some are not. But what we're focusing on though is the salvo before, that big salvo, giving you that advantage, giving you that health pool. If he's shooting HE, again, we're going to have the same reload no matter the ammo type. That big hit would have given me the advantage because I would be repairing the fires that he had done to me, and he's going to be then extremely low. Like when you get salvos like this, it's just going to be absolutely brutal. So battleship versus battleship, AP is going to be your primary, although if there are situations of them angled into you extremely well using their armor, running away with their using their armor to angle, those are when some chances are to use HE, but mainly AP versus AP is going to be the way to go. So battleships versus CVs, and this is going to be pretty simple. If you do see a CV, HE is going to be your go-to ammo because, one, you don't need to pen through any crazy armor. We already saw getting citadels with DDs and cruisers. With the bigger shell, there's no real reason to shoot AP anyways. You're just going to get mainly overpens. So what you're going to want to do, again, try to light the ship on fire as much as possible and just shoot towards where those smokestacks are. HE, we might even just dev strike this guy. So there, a 14k salvo on that. No matter where we hit, we're basically going to just pen with these HE shells and double fire. Battleships are going to have the highest fire chance. That's why a lot of people are kind of tricked into shooting HE versus everything, because they have the highest fire chance of everything because they have the bigger shells and they have the slowest reload. So it is a very attractive ammo, but what you see a lot is battleships versus AP, battleship AP and battleship against cruisers and battleships is going to be the way to go in the long run because it'll just consistently do more damage. But against CVs, there's no reason that you need to pen any armor, and with just a couple salvos, you can light them on fire so we can't launch planes, and we'll see if we even we'll just kind of shoot right there. I think we were a little high for the citadel. We got one anyway. So with those big shells, it's just going to punch through CV armor, and there's no reason to shoot anything other than HE at CVs. You want to get those planes stuck on that CV. You want to light them on fire as much as possible, and there's no reason there's no thick armor really on the sides of CVs that you're going to need to punch through with AP. So just sticking HE, lighting them on fire, and doing that damage, it's not needed. It's all you need, and is going to be the go-to ammo. So that is it for this episode of World of Warships for beginners and going over the battleship ammo types and what's better to use against each class. I really hope this little kind of series, this mini series within this series of going over the ammo types for the destroyers, the cruisers, and the battleships will help you out. You can check them out in the latest episodes. And this is it for the battleships. So I really hope you guys are enjoying these videos. I hope this enlightens you on which is going to work better in certain situations. Again, just a brief overview. AP will work fine. AP is going to be your primary ammo as a battleship player. Although in the perfect world, if you can load HE, you have the time against destroyers, it will end up doing more damage on average. But if you have AP, it's worth just firing that. It's not worth the long reload to potentially do a little bit more damage against a destroyer. Against cruisers, you're going to be sticking with AP almost exclusively because you can just overmatch their armor and just do a ton of damage to them and hopefully dev strike them off the planet with a bunch of citadel hits as long as we're aiming in the right areas. Again, with battleships too, AP against those big armored sides, as long as they're showing you a broadside or showing you a decent angle, you can do a lot of damage, even pen damage on if they're using their armor. But there are situations where HE is a viable ammo if they're angled in or running away at long range, angled away. HE ammo is viable in those situations, but not as a primary ammo overall. So AP is going to be the go-to ammo in almost every situation as a battleship player. But anyways, guys, that's it for me. Battleship ammo types against each classes is done. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.